it's very interesting that people are very often prejudiced towards people they don't know. But if they know people, then they lose that prejudice about people because they see them as human beings as opposed to other. And so the verse is really talking about this fundamental problem that we have. So in the commentaries, Ibn Juzay al-Kalbi says, this is a reminder of the equality, the taswiyah, and he actually uses that word, of the basic human equality, that we're equal in our humanity, and it's not these tribal distinctions that make us superior, but it's actually character. So people are superior by character. There are superior people, but it has nothing to do with race or color or even creed, because somebody could have the right creed but be a horrible human being. So one of the things that this verse is really reminding us is that there's an essential equality in your humanity. So don't boast because you're from this tribe or that tribe, or because you're of this color or that color, or think you're better than another person. But rather, know that inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, and this is how the verse ends, that verily the noblest, the most honorable, the most generous, the most dignified, because karama is dignity. All those words are understood in that word, inna akramakum. The most noble amongst all of you, with Allah, with God, are the people of the conscientious people, the dutiful people, the pious people, the people that are beautiful in their character and behavior. That this is what makes superior people, is character. And this is why in that extraordinary speech in Washington, D.C., when Dr. King said that he wanted to live in a country where people will judge by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That is exactly what this verse is telling us, that we should judge people by the content of their character and not for any other reasons, because you're not superior by some accident of your being. In logic, they have this distinction between essence and accident. So an essence is what defines you. An accident is something that is secondary to your nature. So you can take somebody has black skin, they can actually get an illness and turn white. And the same thing can happen for a white person, get an illness and turn dark. So that's an accident. It's not essential to their character or nature. You can actually, in places like, there are certain countries where people use dyes to dye their skin color. So they can actually change their skin color because it's accidental to their nature. One of the things that a lot of modern people now are promoting, this idea, no, this is essential to my nature. This is going to define my being, like your sexuality defines your being. These aren't, traditionally, this was nobody had that understanding, that people were defined by accidents. They were defined by their essences. And so a human being's essence, in our tradition, has the potential of being either good or evil. That's what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that it has an inclination towards good, but it can be perverted. And this is the Najdain, the two roads that human beings have been guided on. You know, Native Americans have what they, in the Navajo tradition, they have what's called the walking path. And there's a belief in their tradition that everybody will walk a path in their life, but they choose the path. That God has given us two paths, the path of righteousness, the path of virtue, and the path of viciousness, of vice and wrongdoing. And what's amazing is that human beings really do know these distinctions by fitrah, by their principial character. If you give a cat food, it'll eat it with you. But if it steals it, it runs away. So even the cat knows what's right and wrong. Very few people, I mean, there are sociopathic people that these are called shayateen al-ins in our tradition, demonic humans. There are those people, but they're very rare. The vast majority of people really do have an innate understanding of right and wrong, and then they choose. But because we're weak, we fail, and what we have to do is work on our character until goodness is habituated. So this really is one of the most striking verses in the Quran to be understood at a deep level, because this really, all peoples have gifts. And some people, if you look at certain peoples, like the Indo-European peoples have been given a lot of gifts in sciences. Like if you go to India and Persia, Greece, these areas. If you go to China, all these other gifts. You go to Africa, there's all these other gifts. That this is part of the diversity that Allah has made. But nobody is superior because of their ethnicity, or because of their color, or because of the ethnic group that they come from. No, what makes them superior is in the cultivation of their goodness and their character and their virtue. And that does make them superior. And in our tradition, there are superior civilizations. Those civilizations that are virtuous and that strive to do good, those are superior to civilizations that use their power for harm and for doing other things. So this idea somehow that we don't make a judgment about things, that's completely antithetical to our tradition. I mean, we really believe in the superiority of a civilization whose goal is to work towards a more just, merciful, and compassionate society, whose endeavors are for the common weal, for the common goodness, and not for the personal allurement or benefit of individuals or the powerful against the weak, things like that. And that's why cultures are judged by how they treat the weakest amongst them. They're judged by how they treat their women, by how they treat their children, by how they treat their prisoners. All of these things will determine the goodness or the foulness of a culture or a civilization. So it's a beautiful verse that should be well understood, because it would solve a lot of the problems that we have around the world of one people thinking that they're over another people because of anything other than character and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is something that unfortunately in the modern, a lot of modern people are losing this, but traditional peoples never lost this. And there's still places in the world where the vast majority of people still hold to a belief in the Creator and a reverence. And now you have these post-industrial cultures where they make fun of God and they mock God, but God will not be mocked. And it's only one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Halim, the forbearing, the one who's patient with his creation. But there is a reckoning. Alhamdulillah.